All right, Sports Talker Nation, welcome back once again. Is your host, the G-Man, as we continue our 2015 NFL team-by-team review. Today we're going to talk about those Arizona Cardinals. Now, it's hard to imagine that we're talking about the Cardinals this late in the game because they were one of the top 5 teams in the NFL based on record. They're also a difficult team to do a post-mortem on because their season was so fantastic, and Carson Palmer would have been, in any other year minus the insanity that was Cam Newton, would have been an NFL MVP candidate. Yet the way that they ended their season, looking just so atrocious, that's going to haunt them. And I think it may be a deciding factor in what they do either in the draft or as they move forward. They realize that Carson Palmer's time in the sun may be coming to an end, so it's time to look for a replacement. But let's talk a little bit about what went right, what went wrong, and what we do expect in the future. So what went right? My guy, as a Temple alumni, I love to see Bruce Arians get his shot, and he has been fantastic as an NFL head coach. First taking over for Pagano in Indianapolis, taking them to the playoffs, then moving over to Arizona and making them into a powerhouse. He is an old curmudgeon, mean, nasty-spirited guy. He is also smart, innovative, and not afraid to take chances, and there are too few guys in the NFL that are like that. He is a great play caller. Their offense sings when he takes the reins. He made them resurgent. He had a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who was one of the greatest receivers in the history of the NFL, and basically a couple of years ago told him, "You're best off to the team as being in the slot, and you're probably going to block quite a bit." Fitzgerald, to his credit, took it in stride, moved back to being a great player this year. So Fitzgerald was another thing that went right. An absolute find, although not to know those of us who watch a lot of college football. David Johnson from Northern Iowa came out of nowhere to be an absolute stud. All you fantasy footballers out there, he is going to be a beast next year on par with like a Le'Veon Bell. He's going to get the ball constantly in the pass game and the run game. He can do both. He's big. He can block. They gave him half a year to learn the system, and he just took off. The game against my beloved Eagles, where he had about 250 combined yards and 4 touchdowns, was absolute insanity. And the best is yet to come. He's going to get smarter, but you can't teach those hands that he has, and you can't teach the skills that he has in shedding tacklers and getting to the open space. He's also faster than you think for a big guy. That certainly went right. The resurgence of Larry Fitzgerald and the development of the 2 Browns out there on the outside, unbelievable. They had 3,000-yard receivers this year, and they deserved it. Those guys press down the field. They use their talents. Those guys aren't real big guys. Fitzgerald's the big guy. He takes over the middle of the field. Floyd's big. He runs the seam, and the 2 little receivers on the outside. What a great job. They've also totally revamped their offensive line, and I firmly believe that this is a direct result of the impact of Bruce Arians. He knows what you have to do to get a team to work, and he did it. Their defense is also awesome and fun to watch. Tyrann Mathieu, people may not like him personally. He did a lot of stupid things when he was a kid. I think he's grown up quite a bit, and he's a hell of a player. They had a guy like Deon Buchanan, who people thought, well, he's too big to be a safety. He's not fast enough. He's too small to be a linebacker. Well, he said the hell with that and went and played a weak side linebacker position and just blew people up. He was absolutely fantastic. He was fun to watch. The front 4, that's probably where they could use the most help in generating a little bit extra pass rush. But I do love Calais Campbell, and they do have enough talent that it's tough to say that anything was wrong there. Carson Palmer, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put him in both categories, but for the most part, his season was absolutely fantastic. He deserves a nod, and putting up the numbers that he did, even with the talent around him, impressive at his age. What went wrong? Well, the end of the season. This is one of those games they just shouldn't watch the tape. They should absolutely just burn the tape, not pay any attention to it, because you're not going to learn anything from that drubbing they took in the playoffs. Palmer threw 150 interceptions, and I know this because I had bet on the Cardinals, by the way. You're just not going to learn from that. They did have some injuries, as everyone does. Matthew being hurt again certainly doesn't help, but I do think he'll be back. I think him, Gerard Powers, will both come back healthy, and I think their defense will be okay. Their offensive line should continue to improve. If they move David Johnson into that full-time running back spot, I think they should be fine. But their play calling needs to reflect the changing of the guard with David Johnson taking over. So That's another thing that may have gone wrong, is that they still relied a little too heavily on Palmer at the end. That is what got them there, and it's tough to criticize a coach for doing that. But at the end of the day, he threw them right out of that game. What does the future hold? Wow, this is tough to say. I love Bruce Arians, as you can tell from this podcast. I do think he knows what he's doing, but I think Palmer's dents started to show, and I think they may be on the downturn until they get a quarterback. The rest of their team is really talented, so I don't think they're going to plummet. I think anywhere between 8-8 and 10-6 is still possible if Palmer has one more year with a decent arm left in him. But I think they may have peaked with him at quarterback, and they need to find that next guy to fit with the rest of the talent around them, because I think they do have a nice 5-year window with that talent around them. So I expect decent, not great things, not as much as you expect from some other teams drafting this late, but I do think that they need to look for a quarterback, some interior line help, and I think they'll be just fine. So that's it for your Arizona Cardinals 2015 year in review. I'm your host, the G-Man, and I am out.